So we're kind of journeying through the book of Colossians right now, and our first reading then today, our epistle reading, is the second reading from Colossians. It's Colossians chapter 1 and verses 15 through 28. Some of this is going to be a little confusing, but it's going to become clearer as we journey further into Colossians. Colossians 1, 15 through 28. Listen to what the Spirit might speak into your life today in these words. Christ is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For in him all things in heaven and on earth were created, all things visible and invisible. Whether thrones or dominions or rulers or powers, all things have been created through him and for him. He himself is before all things, and in him all things hold together. He is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he might come to have the first place in everything. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him God was pleased to reconcile God's self in all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of his cross. And you, who were once estranged and hostile in mind, doing evil deeds, he has now reconciled you in his fleshly body through death, so as to present you holy and blameless and irreproachable before him, provided that you continue securely established and steadfast in faith, without shifting from the hope promised by the gospel that you heard, which has been proclaimed to every creature under heaven. I, Paul, became a minister of this gospel. I am now rejoicing in my sufferings for your sake, and in my flesh I am completing what is lacking in Christ's afflictions for the sake of his body, that is the church. I became its minister according to God's commission that was given to me for you, to make the word of God fully known. And that was a lot of words, but this is the part that I really want you to hear. The mystery that has been hidden throughout the ages and generations has now been revealed to God's saints. To them, God chose to make known how great among the Gentiles are the riches and the glory of this mystery, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. It is he whom we proclaim, warning everyone and teaching everyone in all wisdom, so that we may present everyone mature in Christ. Holy wisdom, holy word. Thanks be to God. And our gospel reading is much shorter and probably a familiar story. This is the story of Mary and Martha. Listen to what the Spirit might speak into your life in this story from Luke chapter 10, verses 38 to 42. Now as they were on their way, Jesus entered a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary who sat at Jesus' feet and listened to what he was saying, but Martha was distracted by her many tasks. So she came to Jesus and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you're worried and distracted by many things, but only a few things are needful. Indeed, only one. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." May God bless to our understanding this reading from God's holy word, and to God's name be glory and praise. Mystery versus clarity. Have you ever had times in your faith when you needed one thing or the other, mystery or clarity, but you don't want them both at once, and maybe you can't even have them both at once? And it seems like there are strains of Christianity, maybe of other religions too, that emphasize more the mystery of it, and other strains that emphasize more the clarity of it, the certainty, the hardness, the answers, or the openness, the grace. Paul here in the letter to the Colossians claims that he has been appointed to proclaim the mystery that was hidden down through the ages, but that has now been revealed. You know, in a lot of the Hebrew scriptures, it's, "You will find me if you seek me, but you have to seek me with your whole heart." Here Paul is saying, I've got the answer to your mystery here. The mystery is that Christ is already in you. God is in you. Don't go looking out there, look here. A few sentences later here in Colossians, it refers to the riches and the glory of this mystery, which is Christ in you. You know, I like Colossians. It might be my second favorite epistle. Do you have a second favorite? And I like it despite some really weird verses about wives being subject to their husbands and slaves being obedient to their masters. Alas, Colossians is indeed the product of another age, and we will dig into that weirdness as we go through the book. But most of it's good because it names something that much of the New Testament does not name: mystery. It gets to the mystery at the heart of these lives of ours and at the heart of our faith. The mystery we've called God, the mystery that is faith, the mystery that comes to us as strength and joy in our hour of utter need. The mystery, Colossians says, is Christ in you. God's in you, Christ in you. There is an island 8 miles off the southwest coast of Ireland. And because it's right where, the jet stream comes through, it's always being pummeled with waves and wind. The name of the island is Skellig Michael. It's a great sharp rock that sticks up 700 feet out of that tempestuous ocean. It's 70 acres of cliffs and stones and weeds and puffins and seagulls, 70 very steep acres, and wind and sky and long views out over the tempestuous sea. It's a beautiful place that you may have seen before if you've ever watched, one of those later Star Wars movies where you finally get to see the aged Luke Skywalker and he's hiding out in the cliffs above the ocean. That's Skellig Michael. Okay, a few people recognize what I'm talking about. The thing is, I would not recommend any Star Wars movie later than 1983. Change my mind about that if you want. And the seas in that area are so violent and unpredictable that getting to Skellig Michael is always treacherous. And yet, people have been going there and even living there since about the year 500 CE. There are 3 ancient stone staircases on Skellig Michael that lead up to an abandoned monastery where they have those round beehive-shaped huts, and they still stand all in rows. So I'm reading a memoir. It's going kind of slow, I have to admit. I'm reading a memoir written by a guy who spent 30 consecutive summers on Skellig Michael, usually alone. The place is uninhabitable and even inaccessible from October through April. The winds, the cold, the seas. This guy's an Irishman, and honestly, he might have said on page 2 or 3 what kind of work he was doing there, but I don't remember what it was. I don't know if he's like sweeping the steps or counting the birds or doing some kind of oceanographic stuff, however you pronounce that word. The book is light on specific details and heavy on poetic descriptions. But can you imagine it? Living alone on a 70-acre rock, 8 miles from the mainland, with nothing to do but look at the birds, no cell phone reception, nothing. To be alone in the ocean, completely cut off from the world for 3 months at a time. How would you feel when that boat dropped you off and went away? You'd feel desperate. You'd feel trapped. Nothing but sea and sky and birds, puffins, and the stone remains of some creepy old monastery up the hill. A monastery that has sat empty since the 1100s, when Celtic Christianity, and this is an important point, Celtic Christianity, which loved nature and mystery, got absorbed by Roman Christianity, which loved order and power. And those monks were forced to move to the mainland and build themselves a grand Romanesque monastery with soaring buttresses and intricate stained glass and high arches. No more of these little stone dwellings, Monasteries are supposed to look like great churches now. Celtic Christianity gloried in the mystery and the grandeur of the natural world. Roman Christianity loved order and knowledge, for knowledge is power. And the love of power has always been Christianity's Achilles heel. The love of power, the love of being tied to government. Well, as you can imagine, this book that I'm reading slowly doesn't have much of a plot. No narrative question, no villain with some pitiful backstory. No great challenge to be overcome, except facing the person you have to be when you're alone with yourself and a flock of puffins. Facing everything that you have inside when you have nothing to disguise it, nothing to hide it. And so the book is just all these vignettes of this semi-hermit who actually has a wife and kids on the mainland, and his observations of clouds and waves and birds. And the writer shares his ponderings about all the things he thinks about out there alone with the birds. And he sifts through the remains of this old monastery, which has been there since at least the year 600, and he tries to piece together what the lives of those monks must have been. What were they doing out there? Why would they go out there? That was the edge of the world back in those days. How did they live in a place with no wood to burn for cooking or for heating, and no fresh water except the rain? What were they looking for out there? They spent their whole lives in exile, prone to Viking raids and cold and scarcity and wind, like Elijah going to the wilderness and being fed by the ravens, like John the Baptist preaching from the wilderness, like Jesus himself in his 40 days in the wilderness, like the desert mothers and fathers. They were seeking the God in themselves. They were seeking God in places where they had to look at themselves, where they had to look inward, a place where there was nothing else really to do. The best place to draw near to God was in a spot where they had fewer distractions. I'm always telling you it was easy to be a saint before the internet, right? They thought that the further they got from their distractions, the cities, the politics, the buying and the selling, the ranks and the titles and the importance, the further they got from all of that, the more they would find the God in themselves, in their quiet thoughts, in their orderly lives, in their chanting, in their praying, in their singing, in the rhythm of the oceans crashing against their island. Those ancient monks were reaching for mystery. And the writer of the book is reaching for mystery, this perhaps slightly eccentric Irishman. And he finds himself, by being alone on that rock, broken and put back together on the edge of the world, living with the ghosts of holy monks. We long for mystery. That's why everybody is quiet the first time they see the Grand Canyon. We long for mystery, but we fear it. We desire it and we flee from it. We need it, but we can't stand it. Mystery is as deeply comforting as it is scary. And Colossians says that the mystery hidden for the ages and generations is now revealed, that it is Christ within us, God within us. Okay, let's talk about Colossians, one of my favorite epistles, which contains my all-time favorite Bible verse, which we'll be getting to the week after next. Oh, Labor Day weekend. Most of you aren't even going to be here. But in any case, let's talk about Colossians, because Colossians is a tricky book. Or not Labor Day weekend. No, I'm sorry. You'll be here, won't you? You know, scholars do debate whether it was indeed Paul who wrote Colossians, because it's not really his style. And it deals with themes that Paul doesn't always address, themes like mystery. You know, Paul doesn't talk much about mystery. He tends to like things a little more black and white, like many of us do. We like our ducks in a row. But if Paul did write these words, then it was probably a little bit later in his life. And we all know that our perspectives do change as we grow older. Many a hard heart softens with age, and many a cold certainty fades as we grow older. We will not be reading Paul's strange advice for wives to be subject to their husbands and for slaves to be obedient to their masters. But since we're taking a deep dive into Colossians, let's just say that scholars assure us that it was treasonous in the Roman Empire to criticize slavery, the institution of slavery, and that Colossians does so in such subtle language that you have to know what you're looking for, hinting that enslaved persons are equal to their masters, and that masters too have a master in God. And Colossians points out that contrary to the wisdom of the empire, Paul commands husbands to honor and respect and love and be gentle to their wives. And so does Colossians support slavery and patriarchy? On the surface, it would seem to. New Testament scholars would say with a deep dive, no, it does not. It criticizes them. Is this true? Is this just more of those New Testament scholars making excuses for their darling Paul? Who knows? It's a mystery. And as we've been saying today, mystery is good. Our Western minds are far more Roman than they are Celtic, even if you're of Irish descent. We tend to like to see things defined, black and white, good or bad. The famous psychiatrist M. Scott Peck, the author of that classic self-help book, The Road Less Traveled, said this. This is a good quote. I use this sometimes in confirmation class. Some people come to religion to find mystery. Other people come to religion to escape it. Some people come to religion to find mystery. Other people come to religion to escape it. And here the ancient divide between Celtic thinking and Celtic Christianity and Roman thinking and Roman Christianity reemerges. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Peck himself. He was a strange one to be advising people about their spiritual lives and their mental health. He admitted to being a chain-smoking, binge-drinking womanizer who cheated on his wife so many times that she left him, even as he was suffering from late-stage Parkinson's. And his adult children all severed ties with him. He said of himself, "I'm a prophet, not a saint." In other words, I speak the truth. I don't have to obey the truth. I don't have to live it out. Oddly, don't you find that many of the brightest thinkers also make some of the worst doers? There's surely a mystery to that, isn't there? But here's my question. If some people come to religion seeking mystery and others come fleeing it, which one is you? Do you come to faith looking for hard, certain answers, or do you come to faith looking for a means of approach to all the bigness and the beauty and the glory that we call God? I mean, let's think about the kind of person who comes to religion to flee mystery, and we are not criticizing this person in any way. This person wants answers, changeless, eternal answers in a world of constant change. They want something to be sure and changeless. They want spiritual truths perhaps to be as real and reliable and quantifiable as scientific facts. They might, though not necessarily, but they might read the Bible literally. They will see things in black and white, right or wrong, God or the devil. I have known some very good people whose lives were so full of uncertainty that they needed their religion to be full of certainty. They had not enough answers, and so they needed a place where they knew the answers. They came to faith to flee mystery. Knowledge is power, and if this is the only power you've got, then you're going to hold it tight. Maybe this is why the poor tend to be more religious and tend to belong to churches that offer cold, hard answers. Those who come to faith seeking mystery, that's a very different quest, isn't it? These people recognize that we can only speak about God in symbols and in metaphors and that even the language we use is a set of symbols. And religion reaches for something it can never quite get, at least not completely. This is a different approach to faith, for it sees religious systems as a human attempt to reach what we call God. That gives us a vocabulary for thinking about and talking about and experiencing those big questions, those big truths of being human. It gives us symbols, rituals, stories, music, art, myth, to approach the mystery at the heart of these lives. No religion can be perfect. There is no one true church. For words cannot contain the vastness and the scope of everything that we're reaching for here. Even in this one little 3-letter word, God, how many different meanings it has for all of us. Maybe it's just better to stare at the ocean and look at the waves and look inside ourselves. But let us not look down on people who come to faith to escape mystery. The unknown is scary for people, especially people who've had more than enough of it in their lives. They've already had enough uncertainty, they don't need more. Those who come to religion to find mystery, we might have the opposite problem. We're so sure of ourselves. We have so much certainty in our lives that we long for what we lack, which is wonder and awe and questions and reverence. Have you ever stopped to think how much you need reverence? Reverence and mystery. Isn't it a sort of a moral luxury to be free to take an interest in something as weird as mystery? Something as strange as not knowing? But if you're worried about your place on the totem pole of life, you might not have time for that. You would want things to be clear. I matter for these reasons. And yet here we are, created for mystery. As much as it scares us, it also beckons. This tired, consumerist, disenchanted world does not satisfy our deep natural longings for wonder and for worship. Our brains are wired to be attracted to the extraordinary, to long for it. Our tired, reasonable lives, you have to admit this, our tired, reasonable lives feel safe, and we like that. But they also bore us, and sometimes we want to temporarily burn them down. We want to challenge everything they're built on, just for a little while. We want to upend them and see the world in a different way. That's why we watch shows about the paranormal or horror movies. That's why we might take an interest in the zodiac. There's nothing bad about any of these things. But isn't that why we do it? Because we sense so little real excitement and meaning in our daily routines. We might try to burn our lives down by immersing ourselves deeply in the spiritual mechanics of faith. Prayer, meditation, sacraments, theology. That's a fun one to get lost in. Perhaps some of us long so deeply for mystery that we would go and live alone on a rock on the west coast of Ireland for 30 years every summer. One of the great pitfalls of our respectable churches is that we might not be giving people all the mystery that they're looking for. Think about it. In a Pentecostal church, you go and you hear the language of the angels, at least what they think is the language of the angels. It's a miracle, it's a mystery. Go to a Catholic church and Jesus is physically present in the elements of the Mass and communion. It's a mystery. What mystery do we bring to our churches? You get a nice lecture every Sunday, but what mystery? Colossians speaks this word mystery with reverence and attaches it to the word glory on 2 occasions. For Colossians, the mystery is Christ in you. Jesus is already in you. And Christ is a mystery for sure, a human life so caught up in the divine and in the divine life that we have no other language than to call him God. one who forgives his enemies and looks to the children and to the birds of the air for answers. There's so much we don't know about how to live these troubling lives in these difficult times. But maybe if we turn to the Christ in us, we'll find that the answers are quite clear and quite simple. Do we turn often enough to the Christ that is in us, or do we look for answers in all the distractions all around us? If we would actually face the Christ in us, we might find the hard solutions that are right before our eyes, but that maybe we don't want to do because they are so hard. The Christ in you already knows how to live and how to act. The Christ in you knows that it's more about our behaviors in this world than our beliefs. The great mystery is that whatever Christ is in you as well. Whatever it was that enabled him to love as he did, it's in you. That's why this is the mystery. Christ is in you. The big questions: when will you die? How will you die? What have you accomplished in this life? What do you leave behind? In what ways have you mattered? Why does God allow evil and suffering? We don't know. But maybe give these questions to the Christ in you, and you'll find that you have the strength and the balance to be okay with them, even if you don't get all the answers. The Christ in you knows exactly how to live in the situations that you are facing today. The Christ in you knows exactly how to live in this world that we are living in today. The Christ in you knows how to manipulate the relationships in which your life is tangled. The Christ in you is not afraid of the future. The Christ in you is a faithful guide who leads you into tomorrow. That there is Christ in you is both a mystery and the solution to all mysteries. So go live on a rock with the puffins. Retreat into the inner country of the soul every day, at least once a day. Do what it takes to face the Christ in you. In that way, the mystery itself is your friend and very much a part of you. Amen.